Yeah, I can't record.
You can't record?
Oh no, it says it's recording. It says it's recording.
There we go. Can I get a coffee, Ron?
Start our recording again. Stephen, do you have children?
Children, yes, I have children. I have 3 children.
What are their names?
The firstborn is Patience.
Patience?
The secondborn, Phoebe.
Phoebe.
The thirdborn is Priscilla.
Priscilla.
They are all girls.
All girls. What a lucky daddy you are.
But I'm looking for a lastborn, a boy.
Yeah, I pray that comes soon.
Amen. Amen.
Amen. Yeah, we have 2 girls and a boy. What were they like in their personality when they were born? Did you find that they were all the same, or did they have different personalities?
The personality generally, yes. I think when they have grown up, it appears the personality, they are similar.
They are similar, are they? Yeah.
Yes.
In my family, my firstborn was very, very active, and she had what we call colic, a sore tummy, and so she cried a lot and she fussed a lot. And our third child was very calm and peaceful and laid back. So sometimes they have the same personality, and sometimes they're different in a family.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking.
I think sometimes we need to look at personalities can be different, but values can be similar. So we can have somebody who's very active and very outgoing, and somebody quiet and shy, but they both really believe in working hard. They both really believe in going to church. So their personalities are different, but we think of them as similar because they have the same values.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start sharing my screen now, so you may disappear for me, but please don't go away. So we're gonna put it onto a PowerPoint. So we're talking today about personality and how it forms. Are you naturally born with a certain personality, or does it develop over time? So we're gonna have a look at some different people's ideas about how it all started. So we're talking about nature or nurture. Is it born right into us? Is it the way that we're made, or do we become after we're born? So one fellow named John Locke, he talked about the tabula rasa. He thought a baby was born into the world like a blank slate that you could write anything on, that you could kind of train the baby up to be exactly the way you wanted it to be. And so there's the theory that individuals are born with built-in mental content, and therefore all knowledge comes from experience or perception. So we are going to explore different approaches and different people's ideas. So maybe it's a little bit, I feel awful because I can't see any of you. Usually I can at least see me up in the corner.
We're not seeing your screen.
Oh, you're not seeing it at all?
No, we're seeing you. So click your share content again.
Oh, okay. Let me get out of here then. Because I share screen, and there's the content. Okay, that's what I did wrong. Oh, that's better.
There we are.
I couldn't function. I couldn't see you.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're looking at different people's ideas about how learning happens, how personality forms. So this first one is the learning approach. So behaviorists, oh, here's someone. There we are. Wonder if I can turn this into a PowerPoint. Welcome.
Mhm.
There it is. Okay, I got it.
Personalities and the values.
Welcome. Wait just a minute. So you may wonder if it's relevant to to learn about all the different people and how it was the thought that people were rethinking how things were going and who initiated what. And it might seem like it's a lot of names and a lot of information, but it's really important for us to look at the history and to see how the flow of thinking was, and to remember that each one kind of looked at what the other person had done and built on it. They thought of new things that might change that idea, and they added theirs to it, and that's why we have the body of information that we have now. So as you're watching these, you'll have opinions too, and one day you might be one of the people that has a new idea that gives everybody inspiration. Hi, Priscilla's here. Yay. Welcome. We're just talking about how babies, when they're born, are they born with their personalities already established, or if they develop them as they grow, as they learn. And I'm trying to change my screen. Here it is. Okay. Okay, so the behavioral perspective was that personality traits are inborn. Oh, they don't. No, they don't see things as inborn. They view personality as significantly shaped by reinforcement and consequences, rewards and punishments. They come from outside of us, like our parents, our teachers. People behave in a consistent manner based on their prior learning. And the fellow that fathered that line of thinking was B.F. Skinner of strict behaviors. Remember, a couple of weeks ago, we talked about his experiments with animals, how he had the puppies in the one side of the box and he was shocking them, but they could jump over a barrier and be safe on the other side. And the ones that knew that they could do that would do that to protect themselves from the shocks. But the ones that had been shocked before with no way to protect themselves, they just stayed on the one side. They didn't even try to protect themselves. So that's an example of how prior learning can predispose us to certain behaviors. And that's part of the picture. What's that, Ruthin? What were you going to say? Can't quite hear you, Priscilla. Okay. Okay. So I wanted to look at the Bible and see if there was any examples of behavior, whether it was born or whether it developed afterwards, and what it says in God's word. So I found the only three that I could think of. Maybe you can think of some more. But the one was from Proverbs 22, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're old, they will not depart from it. So that's us training the child, and that learning lasts right into their senior years. But then I thought of one where God says, I have loved Jacob and I've hated Esau. It's like God somehow knew their characters and their personalities before they were even born. Not only that, but he knew what was going to happen in their life. So those two scriptures are actually from Malachi 1:3 and Romans 9:13. And then there was another one where John the Baptist was inside Elizabeth's womb, and Mary, the mother of Jesus, came to see Elizabeth, and John just jumped inside of Elizabeth's womb. So that has the message that John knew Jesus, even though he was inside the womb, and he was able to sense that he was there, and he actually responded. So that's pretty amazing. That's from Luke 1:41. So all those seem to tell us that babies do have a certain amount of intelligence and developed character already before they're even born. Now we know too, because of ultrasound, that babies, and they respond to what's going on outside. They can hear our voices. They can sense whether or not we're anxious or happy. So even when they're in our tummies, we're kind of teaching them and developing, helping them develop. Albert Bandura presented a social cognitive theory of personality that emphasized learning and cognition as the sources of individual difference in personality. In the social cognitive theory, the concept of reciprocal determinism, observational learning, and self-efficacy all play a part in personality development. And this is what that looks like. So we have all kinds of things going on in our minds at the same time. We're thinking about a behavior. We judge it by the situation that it happens in, where we weigh our options and we make a decision. So it's not just one thing. It's not just, I'm hungry, so I'm going to eat. Or I see food on the table, so I'm just going to take it. Or I think I need food, so it doesn't matter where I get it from. But we think, okay, I need to eat, but the food has to be cooked yet, so I have to take it into the kitchen and cook it. And
I was going to say a comment. One of the reasons why what Bandura started to say was important was because it makes change possible. So let's say, because there are certain things that babies are born with temperament-wise. So let's say we have a child who's born with a reactive temperament, and her parents don't take care of her, and they are abusive. So she may have problems at school, whereas the calm child, even though her parents are not nice to her, the calm child's sweet at school, so the teachers are nice to her. So the first child grows up and goes, even though I can't trust my parents, the child who's calm grows up, even though I can't trust my parents, I can trust the teachers because they are nice to me and they care about me. So she grows up and is pretty trusting. The other child comes to school and she's angry because mom has been mean to her. And she's angry because her father slapped her in the face and the teachers don't like her. So she grows up with the personality that says, I don't trust anybody. And she's very bitter and untrusting. But because Bandura talked about these things interact, as I said, there's sort of your baseline calm or reactive, but you can work with that person who doesn't trust and help them to see what happens when you aren't angry. Are people better to you? What happens when you go to the doctor's office? Even if you're upset, does he try to give you the right medicine? So you can get them to think about those, which is the cognitive factors. You can get them to look at their own behavior, and you can get them to see that things aren't always the same in the situation. So you can help that person who's grown up to have distrust as part of their personality. And if we didn't look at what Bandura said, nobody ever tried to do therapy, because you go, well, you're just the way you are.
Mm-hmm. And that would be the Freudian.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it talks about observational learning. We're reinforced. If it works, we do it again. If it doesn't work, we don't do it again. So the example they gave was bungee jumping. So I have an opportunity to bungee jump off the bridge at Victoria Falls. But I think, oh, I don't know, that sounds pretty dangerous. Maybe I better not do that. And so I decide not to. But Roseanne, she's more daring than I am. And she thinks, oh, bungee jumping, I may never have this opportunity again. So I'm going to go for it. And she has an amazing time and a story forever. So that's how we think. Oh, that's Florence. Welcome, Florence. Welcome, Florence. We're just reading through this. So Julian Rotter I hope I'm saying that right. He proposed the concept of locus of control. Locus of control. Where is our locus of control? Is it an internal locus of control or an external locus of control? And this affects our learning and our personality development. It's different from self-control and self-efficacy, which involves our belief in our own abilities. Locus of control refers to our beliefs about the power that we have over our own lives. Do we think, like those puppies, that we can save ourselves if something's going wrong? Or do we think we're at the mercy of outside forces? So if it's internal, I might think I'm in control of outcomes and believe that my efforts and my decisions determine the outcome. So if I get into trouble, I'll work hard at resolving it and finding a solution. But if I have an external locus of control, I can't see my whole screen because of this. I wonder if I can move it into the middle. The outcomes are beyond my control, and that luck or fate or demons or whatever, other people determine outcomes. So that's why it's so important for us to be able to help people to understand that they do have choice, that they do have control, that we are able to make changes in our life. A man named Walter Mischel said, self-regulation is the process of identifying a goal or set of goals, pursuing these goals, and using both internal, our thoughts and affect, and external, the responses of anything or anyone in the environment, giving feedback to maximize our goal attainment. Boy, Roseanne, can you summarize that? Self-regulation is also known as willpower.
Well, and self-regulation, though, is also going, all right, I wanted a cookie, and when I got home, there were no cookies left. Mm-hmm. I can have a temper tantrum and scream, and that's going to cause all kinds of problems. Or I can go, it's okay, I'm upset, but there will be supper later. It's okay that I don't have a cookie. Self-regulation is when you're working with a marriage, and the husband goes, I want my wife to do this. And he screams at her and he yells at her and he gets her frightened. So she always does what he says. He's not controlling his emotions. What he's doing is he's going, I will just explode in order to get my own way. Mm-hmm. We often talk about it. It's something we're teaching with children because it's also about learning to wait your turn. There are 5 of us waiting in line to go down the slide. I have to control myself. I have to not get mad. I can't sit at the back of the line and be screaming at the other children. It's my turn, get out of the way. Self-regulation is that ability to go, calm down. This isn't worth getting mad about. I'll get my turn. I just have to wait. It's about not getting frustrated when I didn't learn the alphabet right away, so I'm never going to try and learn it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I skipped something important about self-efficacy. I wanted to read this to you. There's people who have high self-efficacy, which is confidence in our own ability, believe that their goals are within their reach. They have a positive view of challenges, seeing them as tasks to be mastered, and to develop a deep interest in and strong commitment to the activities in which they are involved, and quickly recover from setbacks. But conversely, people with low self-efficacy avoid challenging tasks because they doubt their ability to be successful. They tend to focus on failure and negative outcomes and lose confidence in their abilities if they experience setbacks. Feelings of self-efficacy can be specific to certain situations. For instance, a student might feel confident in her ability to do English, but not math. That's me. For sure, that's me. My mother was very practical. And if something was wrong, she always insisted that we resolve it first and then feel sorry for ourselves. If we're going to have a sit down in a pity party, you had to fix it and do what you could towards making it better, and then you could sit down and nurse your wounds. So I have appreciated that so much about her. That was a wonderful gift that she gave me. Not that she wasn't sensitive to our. I can't see if we're recording. Are we recording? I want to go back. I hope we're recording, Roseanne. I think I reviewed.
I hope so too. If we need to, we can redo it.
Okay. So anyway, Michelle he was known for the marshmallow test. What's the marshmallow test, Roseanne? Do you remember?
Oh yeah. Basically, you tell children, if you wait, you can have 2 marshmallows. And they put them there. And the child ends up, what they're looking at is, will a child wait and leave the 1 marshmallow there, knowing they'll get 2 if they wait? Or will they eat that 1 marshmallow right away? I would eat the 1 marshmallow right away because 2 marshmallows is too much sweetness.
I would eat the 1 marshmallow right away and then hope that I could get the other one too. What about you guys? Would you eat 1 marshmallow or would you wait and eat 2? Hi, Florence and Daniel. What about you, Stephen? Would you eat the 1 right away or wait?
Hello. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Very fine, thank you. Though we are struggling all the time to connect, but we are around.
I appreciate your effort. I really do. It'll be on the website or on the WhatsApp, so you can watch it later if you want to.
Yeah.
The amazing thing about this story about the marshmallows is that when they followed these children for many more years, the ones who could wait and had some self-control had better grades in school, had more friends in school, and ended up being more successful. And the people who were impatient and wanted more, wanted to have both or couldn't wait, they were the ones that ended up with addictions or with poor grades or not so successful in life and in school. And so our personality choices and the way that we're our personality bent can definitely change our lives. And the situation isn't always just the problem. It can also be, it's the perception, the person's perception of the situation, the way we think about it. So these are my favorites, and Roseanne doesn't feel quite as warm and fuzzy about these guys as I do, but I really like Abraham Maslow and Carl Rogers. They were humanists, and they studied people. Abraham Maslow studied people that he considered to be healthy, creative, and productive. Famous people like Albert Einstein, Eleanor Roosevelt, she was Teddy Roosevelt's wife, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln. And he found that those people share similar characteristics, such as being open, creative, loving, spontaneous, compassionate, concerned for others, and accepting of themselves. Maslow's famous for his hierarchy of needs. We studied that not too long ago, how we need the basic food and safety, and then it builds up through relationships and love, right up to the self-efficacy was what he called the highest need of all, was the to be able to reach our highest self, our most creative self. Carl Rogers was a humanistic theorist. One of Rogers' main ideas about personality was self-concept. Who am I? How would you answer that question if somebody came to you and said, who are you? What would you say?
I'm Daniel.
You're Daniel. You're a Daniel, the son of the Most High God, the husband of 1 wife, the leader of 29 churches. Who are you? I think they're talking about who are we inside, though. I hope I'm thoughtful. I hope I'm caring. I hope I'm giving. I've lost where I am.
And I was going to say, because Bonnie was talking about, in talking about Carl Rogers and Abraham Maslow, they have some really good ideas there and they do some really good things. And Carl Rogers, what I was saying is the humanistic approach in therapy is really good, except for certain types of clients.
Yeah.
When you are working with people who are violent, who are sex offenders, many of them are comfortable with that behavior because they are of their narcissism or their psychopathy. So that when you give them that unconditional positive regard and talk about helping them become the real self, they are so selfish and self-centered that basically what they feel like you're doing is giving them permission to be that kind of person. So working with Carl Rogers, working with someone who is depressed, you're trying to get them to accept that they are a good enough person. So that works really well. If you're working with somebody who has borderline personality disorder and has very negative thoughts about themselves, that's very helpful. When you're working with someone anxious, but when you're working with someone narcissistic or someone who does violence, basically it tends to makes them feel like you're giving them permission to be that kind of person, and that's bad.
Yeah.
So it's not that I dislike them, it doesn't work. I used to work in prisons. It doesn't work when you're working with people who are very violent and in prison.
Yeah, so that makes sense with Rogers had a concept of our ideal self and our real self, what we think we are and what we actually are. So in that case, if someone's narcissistic, they think that there's something more than what they are. But if it's the other way around, if considering your children, you're raising your children up, the way to help your children have good self-concept is to give them the same kind of unconditional love that God gives us. Unconditional positive regard is the psychological name. Unconditional positive regard for our clients, to value them just as they are as people, for who they are, not what they do. As persons are accepted and prized, they tend to develop a more caring attitude towards themselves. But there's obviously a breakdown in that when someone has a tendency to narcissism. So you'd have to identify that to know how would you address that in a different way than Roseanne? How would you turn that around to make it work for a narcissist? How would you?
You have to help them to see what their behavior is making them miss out on. You have to get them to see that if you are always the center of the universe, you will lose your relationships, because everybody wants to have their needs met and everybody's needs are just as real as your own. Sometimes it goes back to helping them. They used to talk about narcissists are always people who've been spoiled rotten. Sometimes narcissists are people who didn't get enough of what they wanted. So as they got older, it was gimme, 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 gimme.
They got it themselves.
Yeah, so part of what you're trying to do is work on building empathy. How do you think other people feel when you do that? And if you can get them to start to develop genuine empathy, then you can start to give them unconditional positive regard when they are empathetic.
Like the reward and the reinforcement.
That from you don't sympathize with them when they're being hurt. You help them to see that when they get hurt, it's because you think you should be the center of the world, and you're not. Other people matter too. So when they're doing, gee, they didn't treat me well enough, you don't give them that unconditional positive regard. You try to confront them with the reality. And with psychopaths, because they really can't develop empathy, you basically try to get them to see how following the rules will make their life better. If you don't rob banks, you won't go to jail.
Can you re-educate?
Yeah.
So even though they're hardwired for that, you can change it by education and reinforcement.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So the biological approaches, how much is born in biological, just part of our being a human being, and how much is influenced by our environment and by our culture. So one argument for biological is that they did a study of it's called the Minnesota Study of Twins. 350 pairs of twins were studied from 1979 to 1999. And that included identical twins and fraternal twins. So identical are exactly the same, and fraternal might look different, have a little bit of different features and build, but they're in the, I guess identical are in the same sac, aren't they, Roseanne? And then fraternal can be in two different sex, but they're both born together. They're
Yes.
twins. So reared together, like raised together, or raised apart, separated or adopted or raised by different people. And so even though they were raised apart, they found out that they had very similar personalities and even similar life situations, and even sometimes married people with similar names and had similar children. So a lot was already wired right into them, the way God made them. And I know some twins that they are very close to each other, but they do have some things that are different, some different personalities. So you can say both about them. But that definitely supported the biological and inborn temperament. So they talked about, Stephen and I were talking before you guys came on about when your children are born, the personalities that they have, are they all the same or are they different? Florence, when you had your babies, did you find that they all had the same kind of personality, or were some of them more active, or some of them more crabby, or some of them more sweet and contented?
They have got different personalities.
Did they? Tell me about some of them.
They are not the same. They are very much different.
What was Tabo like?
Tabo is more, yeah. He's calm, he's cool.
How about
he's calm, he's cool.
He's calm
but
and cool.
Kizzy is outgoing.
Yep. We can see that now for sure. So she was even when she was little, eh? So they talk of this Thomas and Jess talk about the 3 infant temperaments of easy, difficult, or slow to warm up. So how about your kids, Roseanne? What were your children like?
Well, Nathania is our youngest, and her name actually means gift from God.
Aw, that's
she
precious.
was our easy one. She was very, very easy.
Mm-hmm.
Nathania and Colin were both difficult temperament. Neither of them liked change. Colin was more difficult than Aiden.
Was he? Yeah.
And I would say Aiden was probably a mix of difficult and slow to warm up.
There was one explanation that had, instead of slow to warm up, it was out and exploring. I don't know why the one had that and this has the other, the slow to warm up. All of my kids were different. Debbie was very active right from the very time she was born. She had tummy pain, so she was kind of grumpy. And Sarah was just as laid back and sweet as you can imagine. Contented, played quietly by herself. Totally opposite kids.
Well, I used to joke that since Nathania is my youngest, God, well, we better give her an easy one or she's sending home.
I wonder if the third one is usually easier. I'm a third child. So we were talking about some of the traits that they studied that were carried forward in genetically were leadership, obedience to authority, a sense of well-being, alienation and resistance to stress, and fearfulness. Those were genetic predispositions that were carried forward in a family. And it's not just the combination of the genes that you have in your body that kind of predispose you to different hardwired personality traits, but how those genes are expressed, because just having a gene doesn't mean that your body will use it that way. It's called epigenetic features that control if the genes are expressed. So you might be, as a child, you might be really, really wild and busy, but later on in your life, you may be calm and collected. So they talk about type A and type B personalities. Remember we studied that a few weeks ago, that some people are very, you know, power and energy and get it done, and other people are kind of, oh, well, don't worry, we've got time, we can take it easy. So those are things sometimes we just have, it's like we're wired that way, but we don't always have to follow that with our whole life. It can change over a lifetime depending on the situations that we go through and our experiences. So they talk about temperament. Whoops. So trait theorists believe that personality can be understood by the approach that all people have certain traits or characteristics of behaving. Psychologists Hans and Sybil Eisnick were personality theorists who focused on temperament, the inborn genetically based personality differences that we studied earlier in this chapter. They believe that personality is largely governed by biology, how we're born, who our parents were, and what they gave us genetically. So they talk about, I think it's down here, the big 5-factor mnemonic ocean: openness to experience, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. I think there it is there. Okay. So think about yourself and your children. So the factor is openness. So imagination, feelings, actions, and ideas. So if you have a high score on openness, then you're curious. You have a wide range of interests and you're independent. But if you have a low score on openness, maybe you're practical, you're conventional, and you prefer routine. The next letter is C, conscientiousness. So competence, self-discipline, thoughtfulness, and goal-driven. So if you have a high score on that, you're hardworking, dependable, or organized. If you have a low score on that, you're impulsive, careless, and disorganized. The next letter is E for extroversion, sociability, assertiveness, emotional expression. And if you have a high score, you're outgoing, warm, you seek adventure. And if you're low score, you're quiet, reserved, or withdrawn. And those can be good traits or difficult traits. It doesn't necessarily mean it's a negative. The next letter is A for agreeableness. Cooperative, trustworthy, good-natured. And a high score would mean you're helpful, trusting, and empathetic. But a low score would be critical, uncooperative, and suspicious. Are you resonating with any of these? Does it sound like you or anybody you know? Can you think of people who would fit these descriptions? The last one is N for neuroticism, a tendency towards unstable emotions. So if you had a high score on that, you would be anxious, unhappy, and prone to negative emotions. But if you have a low score, you could be calm, even-tempered, and secure. These are just ways of trying to explain why people are the way they are. Did you see yourself in any of those? Or your spouse?
Yes.
Sometimes we don't always see ourselves, but we can see our spouse or our kids. Yeah, I think I can be all of the above at different times. So this is, let's back up a little bit here. And do you remember that we did this chart a little while ago for personality to find out what personality we were? Sanguine, choleric, melancholic, and phlegmatic. A sanguine was very sociable, talkative, responsive, easygoing, lively, and carefree. And a phlegmatic was passive, thoughtful, peaceful, controlled, reliable, and calm. So these are the two more stable, more stable personality types. But then there's the choleric, who's touchy, restless, aggressive, excitable, impulsive, and active. And the melancholic, who's moody and anxious and rigid and pessimistic and unsociable and quiet. So these are the introverted personalities, and these are the extroverted personalities. Can you see yourself on any of those? Or can you see someone else that you know on any of those?
Yeah, I think I'm able to see myself.
Can you? Which one do you see yourself in? Or should I ask?
Phlegmatic.
Which one?
Phlegmatic.
Phlegmatic? Is that you? Kind of late.
Yeah.
I think that's a good one. Good one to be.
Phlegmatic, that is.
I think this is Roseanne over here. I know a couple of people that are up in this area here. There's good and negative in each one of these personalities. This is just one chart. The sanguine can be so talkative that they're, you don't want to be around them, or they can be interrupting your conversation all the time, so that's not good. And a choleric sometimes can be more, organized, or melancholic can be more organized. These are online. You can have a look at them later, and they help to get conversations going and help you kind of think, that is a lot like me or the person that I'm living with. So then we come to cultural understandings. Our culture informs the way that we grow up so much. It's our beliefs, our customs, our art, our traditions, the relationships that we have, and as we watch people have relationships in our family. Culture is transmitted to us through language as well as through modeling, and modeling what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Like, for instance, we have in Canada, when someone important comes into the room, we stand up. But in your country, when someone important comes into the room, you bow low, right? And Daniel taught me that when I see somebody that's older than me or someone who's important, that I should always do that with my hands to show a sign of respect. And that if I don't do that, they would think that I wasn't well brought up. So it's really important to understand what's acceptable or not acceptable in your culture. And if I come to your continent, and if I come to your country, I need to learn your traditions. So there's the big 5 factors again: conscientiousness, neuroticism, openness, and extroversion. It's only 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. I must have left one out. So certain countries are more, certain parts of the country are more one way than another. And they made a map of the United States. This was obviously written by Americans. They only have their information on here, but so certain parts of the country tend to be more like one way or another. So the cluster 1, this area here, this dark purple, is friendly and conventional. Cluster 2, the darker gray, is relaxed, creative. And cluster 3, the pink, they say is temperamental and uninhibited. So this down here, it says it a little bit better. No, it's up here. Yeah, so in the West, the far West, people are more relaxed, emotionally stable, calm, and creative. Now that's what these people say. I might take some issue with that. In the Midwest and the Deep South, they're very friendly and conventional and laid back. And they say in the North that people are stressed and irritable and depressed. So this is the North up here. So they say the people living up here are stressed and depressed. That's closer to Canada. Now we might say something different. We might say because we're from a European background, maybe we would say that we're more reserved and more calm and more can't read my own writing here. So, and we might say that the people that are more laid back are more lazy. So it depends on your own concept of what the culture is like. We say in Canada, the reason that we're doing better at the COVID than the United States are right now is because we're very cooperative, and we will go along, and they tell us to wear our masks, we'll wear our masks. We're compliant. And generally they say Canadians are nice. Not all Canadians are nice, but generally they say Canadians are nice and we work together. So that's as a culture, that's working in our benefit right now. And then maybe some of the people in the United States are more independent and maybe a little rebellious, and that's why they don't always follow the rules that the medical professionals are giving us. So
Yeah.
Selective migration is one of the reasons why areas like that get so populated with a certain type of personality, because people will go where other people are like them. They feel more comfortable there, and they feel at home, or they wouldn't move away. They might stay in a place longer, have their families there for generation and generation. And so it ends up being a large area with people very much like each other. But it's true, the people in California are very different than the people in New York. So where you live does matter. Do you think it's like that in Africa and in Zambia? Do you think in certain parts there's more of one kind of person than another?
Yes, it is. Even in one country like Zambia, people provincially will behave differently.
And how would you explain that?
Even though we are all Zambians, yeah, we define the way we perceive things, and our culture does a lot of control over our perceptions.
Yeah. So in the North, how would it be different than in the South?
Very much, and there's a lot of contradictions between the two.
Is there?
Each group thinking they are better than the other.
Yeah. So it's a lot of, it can be tribal too, right? in Africa,
yes.
tribal.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think we have
We will not look at it psychologically, but we'll look at it tribally, and they always blame the tribe.
That one is better than the other. Yes. And then, but when they come to Daniel's and Florence's church, they have to all be one.
Oh yes,
they join a new tribe.
Because we make one new tribe for Jesus.
A new tribe for Jesus.
Yes.
Yeah.
So this is one of the things that we struggle with when we come to Zambia, to make sure that we're not bringing our Western ways and saying, you need to do it this way because we're the ones with the answers. So we don't ever want to have that kind of attitude. So the cultural comparative approach is to come over and to determine if you can generalize, if what you're teaching can be generalized and have cultural validity. Can we bring our marriage and family therapy to Zambia, and will it work in your culture? If I ever do my PhD, maybe Roseanne, maybe you can be my mentor, or the person that helps me do my PhD, and I would like to do it on that. Can Western marriage and family therapy work, be helpful, be successful in a country like Zambia? So that's the cultural comparative approach. The indigenous approach is to have personality assessments that are based on the culture that you're studying. So specifically Zambian, written by Zambians, or at least consulting with Zambians to make sure that the questions that are asked are culturally appropriate for your country. That's the Indigenous approach. The combined approach is a bridge between the Western and Indigenous psychology, so that we understand both universal and cultural variations in personality. So some things will always be the same in. We'll always want to have someone that we love. We'll always want to have young people in our lives. Maybe not everybody wants to actually have a family, but they usually have nieces or nephews. Or so having children, having an important relationship, having a home, living in a community. Those things are all very universal. We all need those things. We all hurt. We all need to heal. We all need relationship. But there's things that are different. Like I think I missed this actually. If you're in a collectivist community, a collectivist country, you're more about the community and taking care of everybody. So you're less independent and less me focused. You're more group focused and more supportive of each other, or making decisions that are right for everybody. But if you come from an individualist country, you might want more independence, more autonomy. You want to do it yourself. You want to make your own decisions. You don't want to have to answer to anybody. So those two things don't work well together. So you have to understand the culture that you're coming to and working with. Oh, there's Priscilla again. Where'd she go? Come on back in. Excuse me. So the differences between, we call it in international teams, we call it warm and cold countries. Leonti comes from a warm country, South Africa, and she likes to have lots of people in her house, and she likes to always be active, and the more the merrier, the better. And I'm from a cold country. My traditions are from England and Scotland, so we would make appointments before we come over. We wouldn't just drop into your house. We probably would like to sit and do our puzzles at night and watch TV rather than have a party. And so we're two totally different personalities because of the countries that we come from.
Oh yeah.
That doesn't always hold true, because some people can be extroverted and very social, even if they're from a cold country. How about you, Roseanne?
In Canada, there's a split between rural and city. Rural communities often act more like warm countries because you end up relying on your neighbor. If you're snowed in, your neighbor will help dig you out. So they are often more community involved and spend more time with their community members and would loan things and would do more warm cultures. But Canada, because we have winter, we do tend to be more isolated in the winter and don't necessarily engage in that time. So Canada's actually a rather odd mix. We're also a rather odd mix because French culture tends to be warm culture. Mm-hmm. English, we have a mix of French and English in Canada.
Asian,
my family background, Asian countries tend to be cold country because they tend to be much more, you're supposed to behave in socially appropriate ways. And you maintain social distance. They have no problem with the masks.
No. But they're a collectivist country, so they would be more, if mom is sick in the hospital, everybody in the family has to weigh in on what should happen to her. Mm-hmm. And it says they're less likely to be extroverted. They're more likely to be introverted. And people in Central and South American cultures tend to score higher on openness. They're remember Bamba, Dr. Bamba, very gregarious and open to experience. But they say Europeans score higher on neuroticism. There they are, picking on those poor Europeans again. So where are we here? somewhere along the line, you'll be able to do some personality assessments. Do you remember when we were over doing the True Colors with me that first year? Do you remember we had the little cards and you could be a blue personality, orange, gold, or green? And it told you not just what your personality was like, but it also told you what jobs you would be good at. Daniel, do you remember thinking that you could pick people for ministry better by using the cards? Do you ever use them? You still have them there. I
Yes.
left them there. Do you ever use them?
Yes.
Yeah, they're great. We should do that again. So there's lots of different kinds of personality assessments. And this one's an example of self-reporting. So it just says, there's a question, I'm easygoing. I strongly disagree. I somewhat disagree. I have no opinion. I somewhat agree. I strongly agree. So I would strongly agree that I am easygoing. What would you say?
Strongly agree.
Strongly agree. So that's my opinion of myself, but my husband, he might not say that. He might say, I somewhat disagree. So if I'm doing a self-reporting assessment, I might not answer accurately. It really is biased to what I think about myself, but it is one way to kind of assess, you know, what people think they are anyway, true or false. This is an example of one of the tests on the MMPI, the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory. It seems to be one that they use a lot in the United States. So
I use that when I'm doing psychiatric assessments because it contains, although they call it personality assessment, it contains a whole bunch of questions related to mental illnesses. So it's a good way of going, do you have a psychotic depression or just a regular depression?
Yeah.
Is it schizophrenia and you're unhappy rather than depression?
Yeah.
So it's helpful that way.
And it's 338 questions.
Yeah, but it is more about.
It used to be twice that big, but they revised it to make it smaller. But it tests for hypochondriasis, depression, hysteria, psychopathic deviance, social deviance, masculinity versus femininity, paranoia, psychasthenia, obsessive compulsive qualities, schizophrenia, hypomania, social introversion, and there's also one part of it for risk factors for alcohol abuse. So it's a good tool to use. You may at one time be able to use that yourself. These two up here, the contemporized themes concerning Black test and the multicultural thematic apperception test, are actually picture tests, where you see the picture and then you tell a story, and they say that this one here is more appropriate and helpful than the other. So I tried to get it for you. But you can't, unless you're licensed, you can't access it. So I wasn't able to. But I'd love to see that, how it's used. This is the one that we usually use in Canada, though, the Myers-Briggs chart, which is the True Colors that we did. The True Colors is a visual Myers-Briggs. It's actually built off of the Myers-Briggs, and this is it. This is the one that we did at the training center, and this is the original one that it was made from. And so I'm gonna, just to finish off our time together, I'm gonna just read out some of these, and you think in your mind, or write down with a pencil which letter you think you are. So I'll give you an example. I am an INFP. So each of those letters, INFP, each of those letters stands for a certain personality type. So we'll start over here. Are you outwardly or inwardly focused? So outwardly, could you be described as a talkative, outgoing person, likely to be in a fast-paced environment, tend to work out ideas with others and think out loud or enjoy being the center of attention? Then you would be an E. So keep that in your mind or write it down. And if you were inwardly focused, could you be described as reserved, private, prefer a slower pace with time for contemplation, tend to think things through inside your head, or would rather observe than be the center of attention? And if so, then you would be I. So keep that in mind. That's the first letter. You're either an E or an I. So I'm an I. Where'd my thing go here? Okay. And how do you prefer to take in information? Do you focus on the reality of how things are? Do you pay attention to concrete facts and details? Do you prefer ideas that have practical applications? Or do you like to describe things in a specific literal way? And if that's you, then you're in S for sensing. S for sensing. So keep that in your mind. And then if you imagine the possibilities of how things could be, notice the big picture and see how everything connects, enjoy ideas and concepts for their own sake, or like to describe things in a figurative, poetic way, then you're an N for intuition. So you're either an S or an N. So I'm going to move this over so I can read the other side. And you can, if this is going too fast, you can do this afterwards. When we post it, you can have a look at it and do it more carefully. So on the other side, how do you prefer to make decisions? You make decisions in an impersonal way using logical reasoning? Do you value justice and fairness? Do you enjoy finding the flaws in an argument? Could you be described as reasonable and level-headed? Then you would be, oh, there's Stephen, back again. You would be a T for thinking. But if you base your decisions on personal values and how your actions affect others, value harmony, forgiveness, you like to please others and point out the best in people, could you be described as warm and empathetic? Then you would be F for feeling. So you're either thinking or feeling. And how do you prefer your outer life? If you prefer to have matters settled, think rules and deadlines should always be respected, prefer to have detailed step-by-step instructions, make plans, want to know what you're getting into, then you would be a J for judging. Judging. And then, but if you prefer to leave your options open, see rules and deadlines as flexible, like to improvise and make things up as you go, are spontaneous, enjoy surprises in new situations, then you have a P for perceiving. So you put those 4 letters together and that's who you are. So I'm an INFP. I'm sensitive, creative, idealistic, perceptive, caring, loyal, value inner harmony and personal growth, and focus on dreams and possibilities. What are you, Roseanne?
It's one of the problems is I think sometimes I'm probably feeling, but I recognize that I need to think to make decisions. I'm definitely perceiving. Believe it or not, people always think I'm an extrovert, but I'm introverted because I really need that downtime to connect.
Yeah.
And I would say probably sensing rather than intuition.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I'm an IS something P.
Something P. ISFP? F?
Well,
What's the
no,
other one? Or TP?
I make choices to do thinking.
Uh-oh. Go back. Sorry. You think you're thinking? ISTP?
I think they're feeling, but I recognize that feelings are not always a good way to make decisions. So I will think it through rather than just react to the feeling.
Yeah. And we can be both introvert and extrovert too. We can kind of be on the line. You can be a little of one and a little of the other. You might still need to be out in public to have, the energy flowing inside of you, but then when you really need to regroup, then you want to go off and sit with a book. So these are just suggestions and just ways to help you kind of understand yourself better. Oh, I keep doing that. Okay, so ISTP, action-oriented, logical, analytical, spontaneous, reserved, independent, enjoy adventure, skilled at understanding how mechanical things work. Does that sound like you?
No. I'm not
Gentle,
mechanical.
gentle, sensitive, nurturing, helpful, flexible, realistic, seek to create a personal environment that is both beautiful and practical.
Maybe that's more me.
Is that more you?
Maybe,
Sometimes you can tell by what you're not, what you are.
because I'm not mechanical.
Not mechanical.
I am not mechanical.
How about you, Daniel and Florence? Did you figure out where you are?
I was thinking I would fall on ISTP, but well, I enjoy adventure. I don't know whether I'm skilled.
Yes, you are. Oh, yes.
Yeah, and but I think I don't know about reserved, because that's maybe a weakness on me. I don't think I'm very much reserved,
No.
but I like to be independent,
Mm-hmm.
analytical, and I think the rest I can fall for that one.
That's what's closest. That feels,
Yeah.
it resonates with you. How about you, Florence? What do you think you are?
I think I'm on the ISFP.
Like I am, an ISFP. Yeah. Gentle, sensitive, nurturing, helpful, flexible, realistic. Seek, oh no, that's the one next to me. Yeah. Seek to create a personal environment. Oh, that's science that is both beautiful and practical. Yeah. So you guys are very close to each other. That's that's why you're such a good couple together.
Thank God.
How about you, Moses? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm closer to INFP.
INFP? That's who you are? Sensitive, creative, idealistic, perceptive, caring, loyal, value inner harmony, personal growth, focus on dreams and possibilities. INFP.
Yeah, I think I'm closer.
I don't know if Priscilla, are you still with us? Priscilla, do you know what you are? She's gone to do something. Yeah. And Stephen's dropped off somehow. But these are fun, aren't they? And you can go back in here and you can look and see where your partner is. There's lots more to learn. If you can go online or even into the book. In the book, there's all kinds of wonderful links. If you can get online on a bigger screen, like a laptop or a computer rather than a phone, and look at the bigger page and see all the different opportunities within the text. To the links take you here, there, and everywhere. You see little movies and little interviews and lots more of this. So have some fun with it. And then when we do come over, we'll bring our true colors again, and we'll do that again. So that's pretty much covers it. It's always just brushing through, though. There's wonderful things in the textbook if you want to know more, or go online and search something and have a look yourself. So we wanted to ask you how this worked. Did you enjoy this? Is there anything you'd like to see us change if we're going to do more? How can we do this better for you?
Well, yes, answer.
Yes, some suggestions for us. Poor Stephen, we keep losing him. How? I know the internet's.
So good.
Pardon? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Have you enjoyed
the
one
challenge of network? Sometimes we get to.
Yeah. And even me interrupting you
Sometimes
like
our
this.
connectivity trouble.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
this
so
a-
sometimes is connected. But I think so far the lessons are going on well. We are catching up. A few others will have to get used to technology, but I think it's going on well.
We're really hoping that eventually you'll join small study groups there and help each other and learn together until we're able to actually come over and have classes. So please, get together and talk about the things that you're learning and how to put them practically into use in Zambia. And normally we would have a translator that when I said something, the translator could say it in, culturally appropriate way, and we haven't had that luxury here. So we depend on you guys to do that and to do it back to us, to teach us when we need to know that there's something different that we need to change. So
maybe it will help us to have just some ongoing assessments so that we could be able to see if we are grasping whatever we are talking about. Just some exercises to be able to assess us if we are really getting what we are learning.
Yeah, Roseanne's going to do that. She's going to be in charge of that. We didn't want to do it this time because we're still just learning how to use the internet and how to teach this way. But now that we've got the course down, this is the first half of it. Then we'll do the other half next after the new year. And Alan in the middle wants to do a narrative therapy course. So there'll be, and we're in the middle of trying to get it registered, but we wanted to find out first if we could do it, if it was possible, and if people were interested. And so Roseanne, do you want to talk to them a little bit about the assignment that you're hoping to do?
Okay. I'm sorry, I'll wake up. It's been a long day. What I'd like to do is I'd like to put a couple of choice questions to ask, to take a look at some of what you think, what you've learned, what you found interesting, how you think you might apply some of it. So I'm going to take this week to write up some questions. I'll post them. I'm probably going to try and do like 5 or 6 questions, and you can pick 2 that you'd like to talk about. Make sense?
Yes.
Okay. That also
That
helps
sounds great.
know what sections you were interested in and what sections you enjoyed. So, but I want to go through all the lectures we did and make sure I know what we covered so I can kind of talk about the different topics. Okay?
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Is there anything that you remember doing that you really enjoyed? It's a lot of material, isn't it?
Yes.
A lot of materials, but I think each topic also has its own part that we have enjoyed. We can almost say we are enjoying everything that we capture. The only biggest challenge is when we want to come online, we cannot go in.
Yeah.
And we miss a lot, but sometimes you get a little bit of the lecture and then network becomes a challenge. And I think that's what makes us a bit, they are very enjoyable. We enjoy the topics and they're very good.
People get discouraged when they can't get on. I'm so sorry about that. We're trying to fix it.
Yeah. And we still have Roseanne.
Yes.
Yes, we still have it's not only the network, like what I said the other few weeks ago, the network plays this part, but we also have a challenge. Most of your students that seem to be silent, it's due to the phones, the kind of phones they have. They are not able to access anything. So, so they just feel discouraged, and that's why sometimes you find there's only 1 or 2 that come on online. Like myself, I have a big phone, but it cannot download anything. So when Florence is not home, so you will not see me. Yeah, but
That
when
happened last week.
she's there, then yeah, I think it's not only me, but I think a few of us would
Mhm.
have that very big challenge. So
Yeah.
That's why I'm glad we take them, because I'm hoping that as we try to get things going, I mean, we're doing the raising for the vehicle first, but I'm hoping we can do something where we can raise money so that there can be laptops or tablets at different churches that people in the church can use, and then they can
That's
at
right.
least watch the lectures even if they're not part of the class.
that's right.
And we're still hoping to get the internet cafe. Right now, Daniel's truck is the most important thing.
Yeah.
And when we get that, then we'll get the internet cafe. So,
Oh, thank you. That would be great.
well, the auntie's halfway there. She has to find something else to climb now. That was
Yes.
so much fun. That was fun.
Yeah, that was really fun indeed.
So any other suggestions or comments you guys would like to make before we close?
So far, so good. We are enjoying the topics. They are very exciting topics, and yeah, I think our lives will change.
And I just love being with you guys. It's so wonderful just to spend a little bit of time together like this. So thank you for, you guys especially have been the faithful, answering questions and coming every week that you can. And I appreciate it so much.
Okay.
Would you like to close in
Thank you so
prayer,
much.
Daniel or Florence? Oh, thank you, Moses. God bless you. Would one of you like to
May
close
we-
in prayer?
May we pray? Father, we want to say thank you once again for this very wonderful time, dear Lord, that we have had as a group. We want to pray, committing even our lecturers into your holy hand, that even as they work every time, teaching us, give them, dear Master, even the joy and to carry out this very work. As we also learn and listen, we pray, dear Master, that indeed give us all the interest for this very work that we have started. We pray, dear Master, that let this very study that we are doing indeed change the lives of us as learners and also of the people around us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank
Amen.
you.
Amen. Amen. Amen.
Amen. God bless you. Have a good rest of the week.
Mhm.
Thank you. Rest well too, and greetings to all our friends.
Okay. Harold says hello.
Thank you. Thank you. Greetings to him too. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.
Good night.
That's it. Thank you. Did I? Yes, I did record. I did. Yay.
Good. Okay.
Okay, I can pause now. Thank you guys. God bless.